You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm discussing imposter syndrome in sales, why top performing women still feel like frauds. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Okay, I want to start today with a question that I think a lot of you are walking around thinking, and you never quite say it out loud. So I'm going to say it for all of us. Are you ready? Here it is. When are they going to figure out that I don't actually know what I'm doing? Yeah, I see you. If that just landed in your chest maybe a little bit, stay with me because today is for you. And here's the wild part. The research says 75% of female executives report feeling like frauds. 75. Compare that to 24% of men in the same kind of roles. Same jobs, same results, different inner experience. And in sales, where your number is public, where you are ranked and it is posted, where every morning you're either on the top of the board or you're not, this feeling gets amplified in a way that most industries will never quite understand. And listen, this is real. I get it, especially as we close the most important quarter and the most important year in the history of my company, right? If you know, you know. So today we're doing three things. We're unpacking why this happens in your brain, the actual neuroscience. We're pulling in some cognitive behavioral therapy because the thoughts you don't question become the story that you live. And I'm going to walk you through the three-part tool that I love using when imposter syndrome hits me, maybe mid-conversation, maybe it's mid-pitch, maybe it's mid-QBR, and we all just want to take a moment, right, and stop the spiral in real time. So let's dive in. And listen, I might say you here in this podcast, but you know I do this work with you. There are times when I still feel this, and I have been doing this job for 20 years, and I still have some of these same thoughts. What if they ask me a question and I don't really know the answer? Or what if I say the wrong thing? And so many more, right? It all kind of depends on the day. This is a nervous system problem. And that is where I want to start today, with your brain, with your body, and why none of the evidence in the world is going to outrun a dysregulated nervous system. So let's talk a little bit about the neuroscience here. And I want to slow down on this part because I think when you understand what's happening in your brain, you stop making it mean something about your character. That is the first part of freedom. And when you walk into, let's say, a high stakes moment, so maybe for some, it's the boardroom, the QBR, the call with the C-suite buyer, the stage, your boss's boss. Your brain doesn't know that that is different from walking out into a field with a saber-toothed tiger. It just flags high stakes, high visibility, high consequence. And your amygdala fires. That's the almond-shaped little alarm system deep in your brain. Its job, the number one job of your amygdala, is to keep you alive. Not to keep you comfortable, not to keep you confident, to keep you alive. And the way it keeps you alive is by flagging anything unfamiliar as potentially dangerous. And it does a really great job. So the more you grow, the more you stretch, the more your amygdala fires because more of what you are doing is unfamiliar. So let that land. The imposter feeling is, in a weird way, proof that you are leveling up. Familiar doesn't produce that feeling. Growth does. And that is actually a great thing. Now, add that to something called prediction error. Your brain is constantly predicting what's supposed to happen next. When you get promoted, when you land a deal that maybe you weren't supposed to land, when you walk into a room full of people whose titles are bigger than yours, your brain goes, wait, this doesn't match my idea of who I am. And in that gap between who you were and who you are becoming, there is a very specific feeling, and we call it imposter syndrome. The brain calls it a prediction error, and the nervous system calls it a threat. Then there's something called the default mode network, and this is the part of your brain that runs when you're not actively focused. Basically, your inner narrator, our habit brain. And mine, I sometimes think, can be a little bitch, right? Some of the things that we say to ourselves, and for women, especially high achieving women in sales, that narrator has been trained for decades to scan for what's wrong, what could go wrong, what did go wrong, what people are thinking, what was the room thinking, what was your boss thinking about that one thing that you said 3 weeks ago. Sound familiar? That's your default mode network. That's the voice of imposter syndrome. It's not the voice of truth. It is the voice of a very well trained, very vigilant, very tired protector. And I want you to hear me on that. Your imposter voice is not stupid. It is not broken. It is a protector. It learned a long time ago that being visible, being confident, being out in front was dangerous. So maybe it was like a childhood memory. Maybe it was the first manager who embarrassed you in a meeting. Maybe it's just being a woman in rooms where you were the only one. Your nervous system learned, and now it's trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. And the work is not to silence that voice. The work is to thank it and then choose differently. There is always something to learn from it. You don't argue, for example, with a smoke alarm, right? You check if there's a fire, and if there isn't, you wave a little towel at it, and then you get back to making dinner. That's it. Okay. So full transparency, I mean, that sounds like a really great example, but I will tell you, there are not many days that I'm in the kitchen anymore. Mark does such a better job at it that I just do what my dad used to always suggest. I stay out of the way. But you get it, right? The idea is that you can be in the relationship with your imposter voice from now on. It's noted, it's appreciated, it's not in charge. Which brings me to the mindset piece. So let's talk a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy. In CBT, we talk about cognitive distortions. Those are the sneaky automatic thoughts that your brain generates that feel like truth, but are actually just really convincing stories. And imposter syndrome runs on 3 of them almost every time. I want you to name them so that you can start catching them. Number 1, it's like mind reading, right? The thought is, they think I don't belong here, or they can tell I'm faking it, or she's judging me. It's as if we know what everybody's thinking, right? You don't actually know that. You're predicting someone else's internal experience based on your own. That's mind reading, and that's distortion. That is not evidence. I had a consult call not that long ago where this is exactly what we were talking about. She thought her hiring manager had all these thoughts about her and questioned if she was ever really ready for the promotion. And when you really take a look at that, in fact, when I questioned her on it, the answer was like, no. In fact, she had been receiving praise from him, but her brain just totally discounted. We do this so often. This is why coaching is so important. It's an opportunity to have you see how what you are thinking is creating your life, and it helps you stop arguing with your limitations. We are so good at that. Now, number 2, disqualifying the positive. You hit the number, and instead of letting it land, you go, yeah, but that was just a lucky deal. Or, yeah, but anyone could have closed that. Yeah, but next quarter will be harder. And every win gets a yeah, but. That is your brain refusing to update its model of who you are. That is imposter syndrome basically eating your evidence. Now, number 3, labeling. I'm a fraud. I'm not a real salesperson. I'm not a leader. Those aren't thoughts. Those are identity statements. And the second a thought becomes an identity statement, your brain stops looking for evidence against it. It just starts collecting evidence for it. This is called confirmation bias. And it is how imposter syndrome becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if we don't take the time to interrupt it, it will just continue. We have talked a lot about the importance of identity this year. You need to be onto yourself. And I want to pause here because I hear this one from my clients constantly. You'll say, but what if it's true? What if I really am underqualified? What if they really are going to find out? Here's how I want you to test that. Write down the evidence for the thought, not the feeling, the evidence. What actually happened? What did the spreadsheet say? What did your boss say in the last review? What does the offer letter say? What do the numbers say? 9 times out of 10, when you drag the thought into daylight and ask it for receipts, it goes quiet because imposter syndrome does not survive on specifics. It only survives in the big generalized fog of what we're telling ourselves. And on the 10th time, the one time that you do have a genuine skill gap, because maybe you were promoted fast or you switched industries or you inherited something new. That's not imposter syndrome. That's a development plan. Those are different. One requires a coach. The other requires maybe a YouTube tutorial and a Tuesday afternoon, right? Don't confuse them. Your brain will try to. Now, here's where I want to get a little woo because I love that too. And I also think that it matters. Your identity is not fixed. You are not a fraud. You are a woman in the middle of becoming someone your nervous system hasn't quite caught up to yet. That's different. That is not a character flaw. That is a rite of passage. And every woman I've ever coached who has made a leap has walked through this exact doorway. The discomfort is not a sign that you're not supposed to be here. The discomfort is the sign that you are. The messy middle is the magic. It's where your next level comes from. And let me just say that again because I want it to land. The discomfort is not proof that you don't belong. The discomfort is proof that you are growing into a version of yourself that your current identity hasn't met yet. Your future self knows. Your nervous system will catch up. Now, let's get practical because, I love that you come here and listen. And that's passive learning. But I want real transformation in the world. And it starts with each of us doing the work. So here is something that you can start using right now. It's a 3-part process. It is super simple. Name it, neutralize it, and choose again. So part 1, name it. When the imposter thought shows up, I want you to literally say out loud, if you can, in your head, if you can't, that's an imposter thought. Not, I am an imposter. That's an imposter thought. You are separating the thought from the thinker. In CBT, we call this cognitive diffusion. In neuroscience, it's called labeling. And there's brain imaging research showing that just the act of naming an emotion or a thought reduces amygdala activation. Your alarm system quiets the second that you put a label on what's happening. That is so freeing, and it is instant, and it works mid-call. Now, part 2, neutralize it. Before you try to reframe the thought, regulate your nervous system. You cannot think your way out of a dysregulated body. You have to drop into the body first. And my favorite for sales reps, because you can even do this in the bathroom, in an elevator, in a 2-minute gap before you hit the record button on Zoom, is the physiological sigh. So 2 inhales through the nose, and then 1 long exhale through the mouth. 2 in, 1 out. And you do that 3 times. This is actually what Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman's work is all about. And it is the fastest known way to downshift your nervous system. 30 seconds. That's it. If you aren't familiar with Huberman, oh my gosh, you should totally check him out. But I will say his podcasts are long, so I usually have to do it in multiple trips that I'm taking. But he has so much really cool information. Now, part 3, choose again. Now, and only now, do you get to pick the new thought. And I am going to tell you, don't just jump from I'm a fraud to I am the best salesperson in the world. Your brain will reject it. It's too big of a leap. So pick what I call a ladder thought, something your brain can actually believe. I've handled harder things than this. Or I've earned a seat at the table. Or I don't have to be perfect. I have to be present. This moment is allowed to be hard, and I'm still allowed to be here. Maybe it's something like my job in this room is to be useful, not to be impressive. Pick one, use it. Write it on a sticky note. Maybe stick it on your monitor if you have to. Now, I've worked with a woman who walked into some of the biggest rooms in tech, and she had a sticky note on her monitor for 2 years that said, be useful, not impressive. And she told me she stared at it before every single executive conversation, and her whole energy changed, because when you are trying to be impressive, you are trying to control what others think of you, which is exhausting and, by the way, impossible. When you are trying to be useful, you drop into service. And service is a much safer place for your nervous system than performance. That is a free one. Go ahead, steal it. Name it, neutralize it, choose again. So maybe you are going to go ahead and steal, I am going to be useful today, not impressive. You know what I say. Take what works, leave what doesn't, and you pick the one that works for you. But the point is that you want to name it, neutralize it, and choose again. That's the tool. And it takes under 90 seconds. You can do it before a call. You can do it during the call. You can do it after a brutal meeting while you're walking into the parking lot. It works because it hits all 3 levels: the thought, the body, and the identity. Now, I want to share one more thing before we close up here, because I know a lot of you might be walking into maybe a specific kind of moment this week, right? Maybe it is the board presentation or the QBR or ending the quarter or the first call with a C-level buyer. Maybe it's a team meeting where you are the newest person. So let's talk about the moment before. 90 seconds before you walk in or log on, here's the ritual that I want you to run. First, hand on your chest, hand on your belly. This really helps to ground you and allows your body to know that you are safe. 3 deep breaths, not performative, just feel the air move in. This is called bilateral grounding. And make sure you take the breath all the way down to the belly, not just into your chest. And it signals the safety to your vagus nerve. It lets your nervous system know you are not being chased by that saber-toothed tiger. And then second, whisper or think the phrase that anchors you. Pick whatever it is that lands for you. I am the steady thing in the room. I bring value. I belong here. It could be just be useful, not impressive. It could be one word. Maybe it's steady. Maybe it's grounded. Maybe it's curious. Maybe it's kind. Pick it in advance so that you're not like shopping in the hallway for it before you head in, right? And then third, name your job. Your job in this room is not to prove anything. Your job is one thing: to be helpful, to ask the right question, to listen well, to move the conversation forward. When your brain tries to drag you into performance, return to the job. The job is the anchor. 3 steps, 90 seconds. You walk in a different person, not because you've fixed yourself, in air quotes, but because you've remembered yourself. And that is a very different thing. So let's pull it all together. Imposter syndrome is not a character flaw. It's a prediction error inside your nervous system that is still catching up to who you are becoming. The thoughts you're hearing, the mind reading, the disqualifying, the labeling, those are distortions, not evidence. And the way through is not to fight harder. It is to name it, to neutralize it, and then to choose again. And I want to say one more thing before we close out, because I think this one matters more than maybe any of the tactics. You get to be in process. You do not have to arrive at unshakable confidence before you take up space in a room. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. Confidence is the residue of action. You build it by doing the thing while you're still scared. That's it. That's the whole game. Build it as you go. And every confident woman that you see, maybe in the Zoom square or on a LinkedIn post, every single one of them felt like a fraud in the beginning. And most of them still do on certain days. The difference is they stopped waiting for that feeling to change before they showed up. They showed up and the feeling changed in that order. That is the order. Showing up is the practice. Confidence is the byproduct. If you wait for confidence before you show up, you will be waiting forever. Do not wait. Just start going. Think of your future self. Think of how she's going to feel. Take action from that. And you know what? You will be feeling confident. So, okay, friends, here's what I want you to do after this episode, because I know you're going to close your app, you're going to walk into your next meeting, and the tools that I just gave you, they're probably going to just like fall right out of your brain, right? The second the pressure hits, that is not a character flaw either, right? It is how our brain works under stress. So here's what I've got for you. Every single week, I send out a newsletter, and it is my way to communicate with you at a deeper level, and you can personally respond to any of them. I share one specific tool, usually something that either I'm using in my life that week, or maybe something a client just had a breakthrough with, or maybe it's just a neuroscience study, a podcast, a book, something that I fell in love with, and I break it down to something that you can actually use on Monday morning. Not theory, not fluff, real tools for real performance. Performance rewritten. And this week, for anyone who comes over from this episode, I'm going to send out the full Name It, Neutralize It, and Choose Again worksheet, the exact one that I like to use. It's the script, the ladder thoughts that I give, and then the physiological size sheet that you can screenshot maybe and just keep it on your phone for right before anything big you have going on. So head to michelleburkecoaching.com/newsletter. And remember, Burke is Bourque. So michelleburkecoaching.com/newsletter. Sign up. It's free and it's weekly. And I promise you, it is probably the email that you might actually look forward to opening. The thing that I want for you is not just one good episode. What I want for you is sustainable performance. We are in it for the long game. And I want you to start building confidence from the inside. That's a relationship. It's a relationship that you have maybe with me, with the work, most importantly, with yourself. And the newsletter is where we can have that reset us every single week. So that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back next week. But for now, lead your life with intention because it is your time. Make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburtcoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.